Hello crafty friends, today I'm back with another Chibitronics collaboration. This time the collaboration is with Newton's Nook. For my card I have chosen the polar bears from the Holiday Smushes stamp set. I'm coloring the scarves in with some red colors. I'm blending from the darkest color to the medium color to the lightest color. When you color with red colors, you always have to be careful because they tend to bleed and sometimes you go outside the lines. And for this reason, I'm using my white gel pen just to fix the mistakes and nobody will ever know it. For my polar bears, I'm using warm gray colors and I'm laying down first my darkest color and I'm blending like I did with the scarves. I'm going to the medium color and then to the lightest. I taped my image on some post-it tape so I have more room to grab the image, so it is easier to color for me. Now I'm blending everything with my lightest color so I get a lot of alcohol ink on the paper and the blending get more smoother. I'm using some light pink just to make rosy cheeks. For the heads and the tail I'm using liquid applique to create a really 3D effect on it. It looks like it's very fluffy. After applying you have to heat set it and now I think you can see the result better. I'm creating a set of 3 cards. This is why I am having here 2 pieces of paper. I'm using Bristol paper from Folia because I like the smoothness of this paper, and I'm using also my Ganza & Tambi watercolors. I put some water in each color so the color can already react with the water and I'm having a really good moisture. I'm just swirling the colors over the paper and this is how I create my background. I'm now playing some music for you and I will pick you up later. Now that the background is finished, it looked very messy, but when you apply splatters of white ink on top, it really looks like a sky, and when the critters are in front of the sky, even more. Here I just used some white acrylic paint with some water and a paintbrush and my acrylic block to make the splatters. Now you can see the layout I'm looking for, and this is how it will look like. Now I'm die cutting my card panel with a smaller die, then I will later die cut my background. Because the LED cards are often very bulky because of the battery, so I always try to hide it. I die cut now the background and I used some tissue paper to cover the background because I knew that not everything was dry and I didn't want to mess up my big shot. This time I wanted the stars to glow, so this is why I'm drawing in now the places where the stars will be later. And then I use my crafting knife to poke in the holes. For me the holes weren't big enough, so I'm using the back side of my quick stick tool just to make them bigger. But you could use a pen as well. Now you can see the holes in the back side of the background and I'm using my foam tape to tape it behind my background. Now I'm using the Tim Holtz ink blending tool and the Distress Ink tumbler glass to make a little bit of ink blending, and I'm gluing now the background on top of my card panel. This step you could totally skip, but I always try to hide the thickness of the card because of the battery. Now I can start to create my circuit, and I always like to start with drawing in my LEDs and the place where the battery will be later. It makes everything a little bit easier because I can see before if things will work or not. I'm using here my sticker stencil to draw in the LEDs so I know where to connect them. Now I have here a piece of paper. This is a strip of paper I'm using, and this will create or switch for the battery. Now I start taping my copper tape down, and I always like to use a bone folder to press the copper tape really hard on the paper. For the edges, I always bend the copper tape to the one side and then to the other side so I get really good edges. While creating the circuit, you always have to make sure that both copper tapes won't touch, because if they touch, the circuit won't work. Now that the circuit is finished, I can start to tape down my LED, and I always like to start with one LED to make sure if everything is working. Then I tape down the rest of the LEDs. You have to make sure that everything is to the same side and connected right so it worked perfectly. Now I can start to put the card together. Herefore I'm using my foam tape, and behind my background I have to use a triple layer of foam tape because of the thickness of the battery. If you just use a double layer of foam tape, the battery will stay connected with our switch and the light will be shining all the time, and you just want the lights to shine if you press the switch down. Aside my batteries, I'm using a little bit of foam tape so that the battery won't move, because if the battery isn't in place, for sure the circuit won't work. Now I'm just using a single layer of foam tape behind my card panel because I had a double layer of foam tape behind the sky background. Now I can look if everything is right. I'm sorry, I'm out of frame here, and now you can see that I'm gluing everything down and it will work. As the sky background is really dark, I like to use a black strip of paper with a white sentiment on top, and I'm using the sentiment Merry Christmas, but the sentiment is stacked and I want to be a long row, so I'm just partial stamping, and you can see I stamped and then removed the half from the sentiment. I think you can see how I made it. I missed the part with the embossing powder and heat setting, but I used white embossing powder from Wow. Now it's time to finish the card, and I'm gluing down my polar bear in front of the night sky, and I also heat set the sentiment push here on top of vellum, and I'm taping it down on top of the battery so the recipient will know where to push so the lights will go on. The card is pretty much clean and simple. This is why I like to do some finishing touches. Herefore I'm using the Wink of Stella Clear Glitter brush pen on top of the scarf and the hat, and I'm scattering some pretty pink posh confetti clear sequins on top of the card. And then the card is all finished. As always, I hope you enjoyed my card and enjoyed watching this video, and I hope I could help you creating this really unique LED cards. Please make sure to check out the rest of the collaboration between Chibitronics and Newton's Nook, and at the end you will find some videos you may be interested in. And I hope that you will visit me again later.